Hey, hi everybody, aloha. I'm here again in the same place I came um, when I first moved here. I don't know if any of you saw that video where I took some pictures to see what my house looked like from above because I could see this looked like an abandoned public space because it had like a little what do you call it? Like a mini obelisk, which is pretty typical of this part of Italy, like tiny little obelisks. Sometimes they're fountains or whatever. And then there was also, anyways, I came up here and I found this place. Um, I'm kind of enchanted with it. I love abandoned gardens, and I started thinking of all the things I could do. Anyway, so I came here with the intention of looking for some abandoned vases, pots. I mean, um, I said vases because in Italian it's called vaso. Um, and I stopped to talk to a nice man that was. A lot of people have a like a wood shop out of their garages here, and often you walk in the afternoon and you find them working with their door open, with the garage door open. And I started talking to him, and I asked him about this place, and he said, "Yeah, the owner is living in Greece, but his son lives right over there, across somewhere over there." And so I instantly thought, oh no, well, that means they could probably see me walking into the property. And then as I continued walking, debating whether I would just shoot in here anyways or maybe go look for pots somewhere else, I thought, well, let me just go ask permission, right? So I went and just rang the doorbell, and the wife answered me. Really nice lady named Rafaela. And I told her, I have been thinking about, I have a lot of free time. Not right now, but often I have a lot of free time. And if it's okay with you guys, I would love to restore that place and like make a garden of it again. Um, no, not to ask for money or anything, just for my own personal pleasure. And she liked the idea. And then I mentioned if I could come get some vases, and she said, yeah, go ahead, go look for some if you want. So here I am. And then I might even have a little hobby place. I'm going to show it to you now again for those who haven't seen it. But first, I wanted to shoot some of the wildflowers that are growing this time of the year. Here, look at these, how gorgeous. Yeah, I don't know what they are. I have no idea, but they're all over the place. And these are the mountain violets, they call them. Here's some. I don't know what they are. And this ivy. I mean, look at these little daisies. So cute. I love these daisies. They come up at the start of spring. Um, well, you can eat this. I forget the name. Parsley, maybe. Anyway, so here's. See, it's all like about. God, I would go ape shit if I could buy this place and turn it into a living garden. With a little shack to, and then just live out in the garden all the time. So I don't know what this is. Dogs are barking at me. Okay, so here we have a purple one. Whoops. It came out. That's just to contain water. So look at this little. Everything is in bloom, starting to be in bloom now. So I have no idea what these are, but these are like little bunny bells. Yeah, look at that. So pretty, so cute. Nobody's taking care of this. It just grows wild. And so, yeah, look at the view here. So Oh, here we are. That's the little pinnacle I was talking about, which you can see from my house below. And that goes to another part of Soriano up that way. So it's pretty grown over, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to find the same pots I saw last time. But look at the earth is so fertile here, yeah, because nothing's been fucking with it. It's just so yeah. Well, apparently the family that owns this owns all this mountaintop going up that way, and so now they live in that pink house over there. That's where I just met Rafaela. I was so nervous because, when you're asking for things and they don't know you, you kind of put this not ill-intended, but it is a bit of an act. It's like I'm harmless, I'm a cutesy traveler, innocent guy that won't harm anything, and I just love nature, kind of thing. I'm trying not to be fake, but at the same time, you don't want to scare people. But she saw that I was being sincere, so she told me to come back one of these days so I could talk with her husband, who she doesn't look young. She doesn't look. That's a little picnic table. Wow, look at this. So her husband must be probably a little bit older than me, which means that the owner, the guy who's in Greece, this is too big. I'm not going to carry that. I know what I want to plant. I want to plant like a little jasmine tree or something like that will lean against the wall close to my door. So last time I was looking at these, it's an oven, isn't it? I guess it's an oven. But then there's this, no, or is it? I have no idea what it is. Yeah, no clue. But it goes around, and then there's something up there which I haven't been up to yet. At least I have permission to be walking around now, so I don't feel like I'm trespassing too much. Helmet. That's a motorcycle helmet in there. Oh, so there's a lot of abandoned stuff. So the owner must be. What's this? The owner must be, up there. He must be in his 80s. Or like late 79, 80, something. And retired in Greece. He ain't coming back. I can only imagine if this was his property, what he must have in Greece must be totally beautiful. Okay. Yeah, so, this can be such a nice little garden. Oh, found a watering thingy. It's broken. Oh, here's the little Madonna. Wow, look at this place. Where's my house? I can't see my house. It's down. Where's my house? Oh, it's down right in there somewhere. That's the rooftop right down below there. Wow, this is beautiful here. What an awesome spot. So these are the legs of the volcano. the volcano. I mean, Monte Cimino is not a volcano. I keep wanting to think it's a volcano, but it's up there. That's Monte Cimino up there. So these are like, it's a very eroded mountain in sort of a really eroded down circular shape. So it's got like fingers going all around it. And if you go that way, you go to Viterbo. And you can also go to Viterbo if you go around it that way. I forgot what I was going to say. Oh yeah, that basically Soriano's built on this little, what they call a roca here, a rock, and then it kind of stretched out from it. It goes it goes far out about back there somewhere, and then it has these neighborhoods up here, and then it has the same thing, but on the other side of that, like this side right here, it's got like this kind of situation where there's a street that comes in and out, but on the other side like that, and then the road goes. So, and then it goes down the mountain, down that way. Ooh, has like some supermarkets and stuff down there. So it's not too small. It's nice. So that's kind of, it's not a pinnacle. It's kind of a fireplace, I guess. I have no idea what these. I have to look at them closely, but I'm concentrating on what I'm saying. It may not seem like it, but to really see what these little structures are. Look at this. Put your arrow, your arrow and bow. Shoot at the enemy from here. Those are two planters on either side of the little Madonna. Oh, look at that. That's one of those Gaia moments, isn't it? Where God's little finger makes a drawing, say, I'm here. I'm here. You're there. More like it. Oleander. All right. So the property must go up that way. See, when the weather is nice, I can almost fool myself into thinking I'm in some, like up in Volcano. Where am I going? Some wet place, wet, humid, and not too hot place of Hawaii. Like up in Kauai, someplace up the hill in Kauai. Starting in April, ending in October. No, ending in, October. Okay. I'm going to turn it off because otherwise I'm not going to be able to look around for vases. Let's see if we can take another route this way. Oh my God, that's deep. Huh. Okay, here. There we go. Now we're going to walk on the edge here. On this little edge. Oh, what's that? Maria. Maria. It continues that way, sort of. And there's probably another level down here, along this side. I guess maybe people are becoming a little more trusting of me Because that's a little strange that somebody would be so friendly with somebody clearly not from their culture. But I think they're detecting a little bit of vintageness on my face. And so it makes it a little easier to trust somebody, I suppose. depending on where you are in the world. But here, you trust older people. Okay. So, oh, look at that. What is that? Something in blossom. So, wait, where am I getting these flowers right here? I have no idea what they are. But it's fruit, it's flowering, and soon we'll be fruiting. I'm just fascinated by the color of these plants. They're like fluorescent. Okay, how am I gonna walk out of here? Let's see. Somebody has been walking here. Look at that beautiful something. Okay, here's a little apricot tree. Alrighty. Yeah, this is not the kind of pot I needed. I want a tall one. I think I saw something last time. Well, maybe I should go down these steps. Go down these steps. I think I saw something here last time. But it's been covered over. We're going down in here. See where it leads. See where it leads. Dun da dun. Okay. Oh, there's like another way of getting up here. Well, if there were vases before, I don't seem to find them here anymore. I mean, pots. I was able to take a. Oh, so this goes down that way. Down there. And then there's another terrace, and then it's just a bunch of retaining walls that have been terraced into accessible garden corridors, but it doesn't go down into the street. A lot of rebar. There's that tree again. See how pretty that is. Alright. How was I able to see my house last time? Was it from over there? Oh, because the trees have grown over. And so now it's being blocked. think. Let me try again. No, I'd have to be up there where I was before. Do you guys remember if I bothered looking last time? Just now when I was up there? Okay, I found my little vase. Let's just leave it there. Vase. Every time I say the word vase, I think of Roberta Herbison, our director of Tiffany and Company. The big kahuna, she used to call herself. And she was from New York, she was from Manhattan. So she liked to talk like that. It's a vase, honey. It's a vase, darling. Okay. I already did this. Yeah, that's my roof, but why did I see it last time I was here and now I can't see it? Huh. That sucks. Maybe from here? Oh, I see. I walked up to that edge right there. From there I could see it. Just want to have a record of it. So we're going down again. I want to have a record of it because then I can take a screenshot for the floor plan. Not the floor plan. Yeah, the floor plan, but mainly the roof plan. So I can continue brainstorming ideas on how to raise the roof. Yeah, that's what I want to do. See, that's the problem. It's grown over now. I just did this. And it didn't work before. Why do I think it's going to work now? Where is it? It's right there. Yeah, because there were no plants. I took a picture through this, I think, maybe. There it is. There it is. Oh, it's just here. What's wrong with me? There it is. Okay. So that's my little humble abode. That top triangle. And so the apartment has, what is that? No, where's it? Oh yeah, couldn't see the balcony. There's the balcony. Goes that way. It stops right there. So you got a view actually that opens up and looks out that way. But as the balcony turns this way, it starts facing this other building here. Anyways, that's my bedroom. And this is how you go in that way. And so my idea is to lift the whole ceiling, boop, like 4 meters. I mean, 4 feet, so that by clearing that roof, all of a sudden you have windows that get the sun coming in from here and start hitting the apartment, go into the apartment over this roof, because then this roof would be higher. And there would be enough room to make a little loft, and then there would be a strip of windows going all around it, but higher than this roof. Stop falling out of focus. Higher than that roof, right up there. So the strip of windows would come like that, and like that, and this would be a window all the way down to the floor, And I'm thinking of taking glass part of the balcony so that I have a little bit of extra room. I can step out from the kitchen, step out into a glazed hallway, glazed or glass hallway, and then go back into the bathroom, the bathroom is this little corner right here. Anyways, that's my big project. I don't know if I'm going to be able to ever do it. But if, already I have a nice view from the kitchen from that end out that way to that view over there, which you might have seen before. And a lot of light. There's sunlight. In the summer, it starts coming in right here. It hits me for a few hours. It starts hitting the apartment. And then the sun starts going that way. And then it hits the front door. So the front door is going to be glass, so it gets all that sunlight. When the sun comes up that way, it comes over here, it hits the bedroom window, which would be a French door with a balcony rail, and then a glass front entrance door. And so a lot of light, plus all the windows that would go around here. And so the idea is to make a loft maybe on this half from here, just enough to clear a bed and be able to stand up. Already this is pretty tall. This is really tall. So only about 3 feet more will give you enough room to be able to stand on both floors. And then with a little balcony overlooking the tall part of the kitchen would be really tall suddenly over here. That's the kitchen. This is the bathroom, and this is the bedroom in there. And the hallway runs from here to there, along that wall. So you go in here, the hallway's there. Then you go into the kitchen, which is triangular. The bedroom is square right here, and then the bathroom is here. You can't really touch the outside walls, but any addition that goes above the walls you might have to correspond maybe to what's below. I don't know. I mean, look at these guys. These guys built, and then they just did that, right? So you see a lot of that in Italy, different places. Sometimes you can't tell that they added. Sometimes you totally can. Anyways, that's why I like that place, because it offers me like a possibility for the future, for making it really awesome. And oops, this stone almost tipped over. Okay, well, I don't see any pots. Whoa. Okay. I'm just gonna go across. Hopefully there are no wells. I'll be little Patricio. That's not a funny joke. It's not a funny joke. All right. Okay. All right. Maybe I saw that and I got the idea that there were vases around. What's that? Canister. If there are any, they've been hogged up by the grass. I can't see them anymore. They've been covered over. Ooh, what's this? Something stuck to my jacket. Oh, so this goes, let's go up there. See, this goes up here. I mean, it's very enchanting now that it's spring. You know, when it's winter, it's a completely different ball game. That's why I like Hawaii so much, because you never have to worry about that. Oh, okay. There's another little landing spot up here. Huh. There's a fence. Oh, there's more. There's more. It's an abandoned TV. A shack. Oh, that's probably where the mechanical is, the pumps. Yeah. So you see some stuff that they're using for whatever. Oh, it goes up further. Huh. Goes up further. There's a whole I hate this word. Orchard. It's an orchard. I just felt a raindrop on my forehead. Huh. So these are like little steps and fruit trees. Oh, so that's what the rebars are for. Holding up the trees. Oh, so they don't cut the grass, but they have, well, at some point they had a working water line. Huh. Do I want to continue going up? I don't like running into those situations where the wife was really nice and told you that you can go ahead and go up, but then the husband gets home and he gets really upset that you did that. And keels up the whole situation. I just saw a really fast moving insect down there from the corner of my eye. It looked like it could have been a centipede. So the rich people always, unless you're in Rio or Sao Paulo, Rio, the rich people always live up on the hill. It costs more to build, maybe. Okay, let's continue going up. I see why she said, she referred to the whole, she like looked with her eyes or pointed with her fingers at the whole mountain when she said that is our family's. There's another fence. Something tells me that's not the end of their property. I wish I could just continue hiking. Oh, no, it isn't, because somebody lives there. Yeah, this is a proper proper house. I'll be surprised if a dog came charging any minute now. Okay, from here we are going to go down. Bellissimo. Look at this forest. By the way, these are all invasive species. You know, let's just let nature figure it out. Of course, most of this stuff did come from other parts of Asia and Europe throughout recent ages. Maybe even adapted and created new. I don't know, I just have a thing about albesias, you know. Yeah, we understand. They're killing everything underneath. So, instead of seeing it as a bad thing you have to eradicate, see it as something that you can use to create shade, prune them, have albesia pruning services, pull them out at the root wherever, but then use them. And they're so beautiful. Albesias are just so beautiful. I had some albesias around my house in Kalapana. One was like my hamakua. It was right next to. It was the only one, huge one, all by itself, and just a few feet away. And I was gonna make like a gathering area or a sitting area underneath it. I had little spaces planned out all around my shack. And so wherever I would find shapes in the lava that would flat out, you know, and then kind of like bevel down from the sides, I would clear those and make an access path to it. Oh, now it's starting to rain. And so I had like rooms around. I was starting to shape rooms around the shack, and sometimes those rooms had a big tree in them that made for a place to find shade. And then the idea was eventually to have like lawn pads in these rooms, you know, where you'd walk across wild growth, step up like little natural ladders, and you know, and then show up and appear like in a little clearing like that. And I was always thinking of Kalele. You know, everything was for Kalele. If I went hiking to Royal Gardens, it was to take Kalele out on a hiking trip. And so these little pads were Kalele pads, were places where she could go and have a place to lay down, because of course it's kind of uncomfortable for dogs to lay in the lava. So I started cutting paths to lead up to the main mound where the shack was built, and I let trees cover it up all around it, but then there were a few paths that led away from the shack. Very organic, you know, like a web. Like a web of things. Yeah, I had it all planned out, and every time it was a discovery, because as I was like moving aside, oh, I could come get soil from here. Totally. Yeah, hello. That's a huge resource. I would discover like what could be a new space, a new room in the garden. And it was so exciting for me. There was a big one with a bunch of what do you call it? The howlib tree? No, I forget. The big fast growing, oh god. Anyways, I forget the name of it. And there were a lot of them, like growing side by side, straight up. So it was like a little mini forest. There were these little mini spaces around the shack that had their own personality. Like there was a little valley right in front of the shack that had a big, huge Christmas tree that I cleared underneath it. I cut all the branches and left it like a real low umbrella that you couldn't walk underneath, but it was meant for Kalele to have a place to go under, and then you could go sit next to her too. And one time I remember going home one afternoon, and they were uprooting, up carpeting a whole lawn. And I got excited like a kid in a toy store. I said, "What are you going to do with that?" "Oh, we're just tossing it out." "No, no, no." So I went to get my pickup, which I couldn't drive because it wasn't registered. And I filled the back of my pickup with as much blocks of grass as I could recuperate from there. And I made one of these little lawn rooms right in front of my shack. And that was a spot where this is where the carpenter man was. Right in front of my shack. And Kalele used to love laying there. And yeah, it was like architecture, but sculpted out of existing trees. Hey, Penny, meow. Psst, psst, psst. Miniqua. Chicken, scaredy cat. Yeah, so that's why I'm so heartbroken about Kalapana. It's like losing, okay, I'm going to say something sacrilegious, but it's not like losing a son, but it's kind of a pain that never leaves you. I was so in love with that place because of being able to be creative. I mean, people who live in Pune understand what I'm talking about. Your soul becomes so rooted in the artistry of your garden and what you're able to see, flourish every season. Every time you did something, then you see it grow and stuff. So yeah, that's one of the reasons I sometimes, it's sad, but I really get motivated to come down on, like when it comes to social issues, when I'm Hawaiian sovereignty groups, I'm the asshole that says you don't want to admit it, but there's a horrible, repressed, silenced segregation. Locals hate whites and they're mean and they want to keep them intimidated and they laugh at Howley and stuff, and you all want to act like it's not happening. I'm that guy, and I realized that it has to do with still harboring this sadness, this anger for being ripped out of. It was ripped out in the form that I was beat up, and then they started vandalizing my car. So the situation had changed from them being nice and cordial and whatever, flashing their highlights in the middle of the night at my shack, because they always laugh at you, right, for whatever reason. But at least they weren't passing the line. They weren't crossing the line. I mean, but after that incident happened, where Logan, whatever his name was, and Ethan, attacked me. Ethan didn't actually, but it was his anger that he hated that I went up to him. Anyways, that I just went up and want to talk to him when he was using the chainsaw on him. Anyways, I just don't, I was naive. I didn't know. Locals with a chainsaw, leave them alone, because they're probably on meth and they want to cut your head off with it. Whatever. Yeah, when they got back home, and they probably laughed at the incident, even though I was left bludgeoned. Some other guys probably started coming over to the house, because what it was is that there was somebody at the tobacco shop next to Sirius that probably saw me come into Sirius Cafe Cyrus Cafe every day, and so they'd call him and let them know he's here, because every time I'd come back, I'd find a piece of my truck missing, vandalized. They took the battery, then they took a tire, so I started fearing for the cats and for Khaled. I thought they were gonna throw poisoned meat into the yard or something horrible. I started fearing for them. I would have, I wasn't afraid that they would come and attack me in the middle of the night and stuff like that. It could have also been a possibility. Just come and scare me, like come in the middle of the night and make sounds around the shack. They're horrible, and they don't want to admit all this stuff. This is typical of locals that hate whites. They start bullying and ganging up on you and laughing at torture, at tormenting you and shit like that. This is so classical. If you know Hawaii, if you lived in Hawaii, you know it's true. And all these groups, they don't want to hear it. Whites don't want to hear people that come to Hawaii. They want to live the little Lala dream. Don't spoil my little dream fantasy. And you're the one that has problems. It's probably your attitude that creates. No, that's really, they hate people. They hate whites. They hate, nobody wants to talk about it. Anyways, it all kind of comes from this experience, and I'm aware of that. From wanting, it's not quite revenge, but it's still wanting to hit them back somehow. Like when people that don't know how to fight fantasize about harming the person that beat them up, but they don't actually do it. They don't go up and pick a fight or settle the score. They kind of fantasize about cutting their throat or something. Well, it's kind of like that. I still have, because they took away something so beautiful from me. And they would never understand, they would never care for the significance of it. How big and how beautiful it was in relative to what has, not that my life has been bad, but in the scale of things, to me it was the most beautiful place I lived at, and the most beautiful opportunity. I gotta go back because my voice echoes in there. Of having a home where I could finally carry out my creativity, where I could finally design things, where I could maybe bought the place from Alan and maybe done a farm, and it could have led to a life. The way I see it, sometimes a home will be the vehicle for recovering your life, recovering yourself, healing, becoming something that you haven't been able to fulfill in your life, create something, build something, a business even, or a creative expression which is so important, so significant to feeling healthy in your heart and your soul. So to me, that place was all that. It was a place that would lead to my healing, to my place to be happy, to see a garden, maybe even start a little business with Alan if he ever learned to trust me. He would have known that I would have built a little noni farm in that part as well, because it was his. Hello. But he always saw me as a hippie that he had to write me off and never trusted anything I said. And but it could have eventually one day changed, and I could have maybe bought the place and rent to own kind of thing, and they didn't just kick Howley in the head. What they did is they destroyed the course of a life that was repairing, that was happy, that was feeling fulfilled, that had everything that was given by Gaia, by life, by God, by circumstances, by whatever powers you want to think, finally given something that fulfilled my heart, my soul, that gave me an open field for a future life that could have been, instead of just a life that's about working and paying your rent and not seeing a future. This was the opposite. It was my animals, and my cats, and the love I had for the freedom, how I raised those cats to be self-sufficient at the same time. And Kalila's home, a place where she loved being free, and she was never tied. I'd sleep with the door open. I never feared for her taking off at night. She never did. Sometimes I'd wake up and she wasn't inside the shack, but she was just outside peeing, or she had decided to get up and go lay out in some spot outside. And as soon as I'd call her, she'd come back in. They took all that away. So I guess the lesson of all this is people don't know just how strongly how can I say this? How strongly the repercussions, but I want to say more than just the repercussions, but the destruction that hate creates in the world. People hate. People are mean to another, selfish, attack, lie, what have you. Basically, for very narrow-minded reasons of self-need. It has to do with their own insecurities, with their own greed or ambitions, or their own small-minded ideologies. They're always centered and ego-centered. They don't realize that when they commit that act of invasive abuse, what they're doing is they're destroying. It's almost like, if you can imagine something that you take away one little piece and the whole thing falls, like a house of cards or something, and you think that you ought to, and for whatever reason you just flick one of the cards and you look away, and then that whole card of house collapses. All those hours that the person spent, everything that it meant that they accomplished and they finalized that house of cards collapses, and it does that much damage to that person. It doesn't do the damage of just flicking a card. So yeah, the people are not aware that evil or meanness in itself is like a poison drop that you put into water, and as soon as it hits the water, it spreads out and it tints that whole vat of water. But we don't realize that because it's evil and meanness. It comes from fear, from a self-absorbed, from an ego, from a desperation, from something that concerns only the perpetrator. They're not aware, which is why Christ said, forgive them, basically. They don't know what they're doing. It's true. When we see mothers carrying their amputated children's, bodies, and dozens of babies covered in white cloth in Gaza, and we just cannot believe that is allowed to continue. And you think of this man, Netanyahu, you go, how can he not respond to that? Well, the truth is that he may have visually seen it, but he doesn't feel it. He doesn't feel it the way you and I feel when we see like all those lives crying to desperation. We know that a man's entire work of putting a business together so he could have a family, and all the joy of seeing his children grow, and the happiness day after day of seeing his little girl, be happy about what she's going to be, and she wants to be a writer, or she wants to be an artist, and that is enormous. You start understanding that from a perspective of peace. You can see that, you can appreciate that. And so when you see those babies and that destruction in Gaza, it wrecks you, because you get a sense, and we don't even see just the enormity of it, but we're much closer to glancing at what that actually is representing in its immensity. But the person that drops the bomb, the person that designs the bomb in his engineering office, the Netanyahu, the Trumps, the Bidens, people that fly the Israeli flag like fanatics because they want their country to be rich, so they want to be friends with Israel, and they're not thinking of that man is doing all that stuff. You know, some people are. Some people in places that they're free to observe with more objectivity and proper study, like at the United Nations, where they understand, they study and they live and they develop, um, um, how can I say this, political intelligence based on values of humanism. And so they are looking at these things that we so easily see on the internet through a more intellectual and academic way. And so, yeah, they put an arrest order, at least, to stop this man from killing, hundreds of children every week. But he himself, in other words, if Mr. Netanyahu was able to actually feel in his heart, through his eyes, what those people that pushed these values and arrest warrants at the UN, or that many of us feel and see when we see these images and we hear good independent journalists talk about it in detail, if he was able to feel with his own eyes that, he wouldn't do it. But why was I beat up in front of my little Shangri-La in Kalapana? Why does Netanyahu give the go-ahead to continue killing hundreds of babies? He has his reasons. He has, of course, he has to have. There can't be no void, no empty space in the rationale of a person. They need to fill that space with something, or that something moved out of his mind the better, righteous, more humanly superior perspectives. And so which is what people do. They need to justify, because there's something, well, I'm going to just get into this and I could go on and on and on, but basically, when it is evident, or when it starts becoming, when we start sensing that it's evident that somebody, by the way they talk, by what they say, are revealing us, their denouncement is true and righteous, and they're proving that we're to blame for something hideous, destructive, harmful, and selfish, we instantly have a reaction to deny it. Not because we want to be more evil, which is something we don't understand in all our shallow wisdom. It's not because we're bent on being evil. It's because we run away from facing our evil. We run away from being denounced, from being proven, from being shown in a moment of non-defensiveness, because defensiveness is sort of closing a door so that we don't hear what they're saying to us. If there is an instant in which we actually start appreciating that somebody is actually seeing that we're being evil, mean, selfish, destructive, at that moment there's an instant reaction, which is to kick against it, and to produce reasons, justifications, because we have a right to defend ourselves, because blah, 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 blah. And so but that is a product of, it's the vitality force of evolution. The vitality force of evolution is the thriving, onward, one-directional force of light, of love, love is in it, fills it. But it's of life and evolution, the proliferation of light and love and life. I keep saying love, but love is strong in it. And so we probably would more easily feel the love force than the determination, the forward determination of evolution. But in any case, it's like a forward only for, and so we cannot accept, we cannot understand almost. anything would. It's like a confusion. That's why when something really horrible happens to somebody we love, something unexpected happens or hits us, there is a component of confusion, like that's not supposed to happen. It's because there is no set place for the opposite of life to be understandable, to be comprehensive. There is no place where we can say, oh, well, it's just, logically, it's what is against evolution, life, and proliferation of growth and light and everything. Yeah, it's right there. No, it doesn't exist because life only knows forward. It's like life is light. That's why you say love is light. And so we have that in each of us. We each have the strength, and that's why death is never really completely understandable. We can try to be Tibetan about it, but ultimately we cannot really embrace. Some people say embrace death, and they make a whole Hollywood thing. It's like, I'll take life. My belief is that when we're actually there and we see we're being spent or being snuffed out, something wants to say, no, why? This cannot be happening. Maybe a super strong mind can actually just, buckle it and face it iron-faced, maybe, okay. Maybe we have enough training, spiritual training. Perhaps it's not nature's way. It's not natural. It's something that we may teach ourselves to do through spiritual religions. But so because this is at the very source of rational understanding of human behavior, and it isn't something that is built into us, that we know. And so we also come up with reasons, well, that person is evil. In fact, the easiest explanation is to say that God created bad, good, and evil, and then put the devil here. And so now we understand, okay, so there's a devil, and some people are born bad, and blah, blah, blah. And we have all these judgmental, these blaming that lead to punishing, and how we understand. We have built the understandableness of the world, literally built by our rationale. But in reality, there is no separation, which many spiritualities or religions say. We haven't put it all together in a single understanding. A lot of religious scripture says here, this, and there, and that, but that it doesn't all follow a single comprehensive explanation for one entire explanation. But what I'm getting at is that we created the division when we said that we're born in evil, we're born in sin. Some people are born, there's the devil on earth, and then there's the darkness and whatever. And then, so we gave darkness or bad or evil like an entity, a willful entity, which is our own invention. There's no willful entity for bad and evil or destructiveness, because the main driving force is forward life and light, and with it love as its force, as the fuel that fills it. And so what we can understand is the challenge of our evolution created nature, the human animal, if you will. We can understand how it evolved for 99% of our time, facing fear, facing challenges to life, challenges to staying alive, challenges to comfort and feeling safe. And so our intelligence, I was watching something about penguins today. That was very interesting. I was never really sure of this, but I'm now starting to think there is actually something quite true. I thought it was just a minor part of a bigger thing, but what's his name? Tyson, the astronomer, was saying that he was in Antarctica, and he was saying some scientists explained to him why penguins waddle clumsily about, and they're not nimble and skillful. I'm lacking the vocabulary in this, and it's because basically they have no land predators. So in the water, yeah, they can dash away from orcas and seals, but on land they have nothing that chased them, so they never needed to be super agile and quick, and they walk right up to people. And so this is not a new theory, of course, that it is danger and threat and challenge that causes fear, and it provoked the development of intelligence in humanity, which still doesn't negate what I was just explaining, which is the prime basic guiding singular forces and strongest singular, nothing challenges it or counters it or anything, is the forward advancement of light and life and love. It still doesn't negate it. But what is interesting to me is that if we understand, we should be able to unite both ideas, because we can understand that we do bad things because our nature is fearful, because our nature is afraid that we're going to get sick, that we need to be safer and stronger, that we need to prepare, that we need to defend ourselves against dangerous animals that want to eat us, and disease or what have you. And so 99% of evolution has shaped us with this human nature that later behaves because of it. Not because there is evil that must manifest itself, but it's because we react in a way that is selfishly self-preserving. Now, and that will disregard others, and that's the individual. It's part of mostly expressed in the individual logical analytical mind of the human brain, while the collective expression of human intelligence, the collective brain, is just at peace. It knows how everything is and understands why things happen, and it's just a design of the whole, But the individual mind is leading evolution like a spearhead, and with it is also thinking intensely the primitive human nature that comes from what evolution shaped us as. And so what we actually see, the world is a manifestation of this imbalance or disharmony between the individual mind and the collective mind. The collective mind is very precocious, very sharp. It knows how to get out of the way quickly. It knows how to analyze and understand, how to recreate, how to produce, how to invent, how to defend oneself. And that is very sharp, quick, precocious, inventive. But it's also very selfish and self-preserving. And so when we are in combat, for example, we're not thinking very sophisticatedly. We're only thinking very quickly, perhaps in a complex, tight way, how to resolve something really quickly, but it's always very immediate. We're not understanding the modulating social conditions of social circumstances that we may more easily be able to understand, like sociology and psychology, and insofar as the interaction of individuals with the human collective, and because we're not paying attention to the whole, to the sphere, to the collective. We're only looking through a little narrow, fast-moving forward mind, which is not. So in any case, basically we are. What explains the world is this highly challenged, predisposed to self-harm because of not understanding enough, because of being selfish, because of not having a built-in understanding of the design of nature, of the individual mind, the logical, analytical individual mind in each human brain. And so this in our brain exists in stability. Or if not instability, it actually exists in instability and disharmony, but it is working together. It has to work together. It's inside each one of our brains. And so somehow the collective makes it work. And so the collective has a few leaders that maybe decide they need to cut down a forest, but it's not long before the intelligence of the collective, somebody speaks out louder and is the voice of reason prevails, and they have that person stop cutting the forest down, because for all the reasons, because they actually understand that we need the forest and it's not wise, it's stupid to cut down the forest. And so that individual stopped. And so the collective kind of helps us level off what is this built-in instability. It helps us, like, this is why we are so mean on the internet. Because in person, for example, we would never act up and insult somebody in the face, and act ridiculous. And, there are forces that kind of we self-regulate collectively. In other words, we are ashamed, we may be embarrassed that somebody is going to defend them, or somebody is going to call us on what assholes we're being, or for all the many reasons that the collective will find ways of stabilizing, of self-balancing. And so people find a manner, an average tone for treating one another. But when we're on the internet, we're not being witnessed by anyone. We're not being witnessed by other people. And so we lash out and we insult and we call people. We do daring things on the internet that we wouldn't do to somebody in real life. And that happens because the collective is not there to sort of check us, we're not aware of it because it's not there. And so since we're aware that they're not there, then we're like, it's almost like the robber that would think twice before robbing, unless he was given the guarantee that he will never be found. If somehow God, or whatever came and said, okay, look, take that, steal that from that person, and I guarantee you, I promise you, nobody will ever find out about it. All of a sudden, there's something that wakes up this individual mind, this sort of the trailblazing, evolutionary, selfish, self-absorbed, very inventive, very precocious, individualistic mind says, I'm going to run with it. And it's very likely that you might seriously consider it. It's very unlikely that you will hone your will to a goodness that has nothing to do with being found out or being seen eventually or discovered somewhere down the line. It may happen. But so that's the phenomenon of why we behave so differently on the internet. But the world is the same way. And so what we have now is basically a man who, the United States is the biggest power. So if the United States and China and Russia, they all stand back and allow you, it's sort of like that. Netanyahu is exhibiting the worst expression of human nature, the most selfish, self-absorbed, explained to himself, justified for whatever he does something that he would never do if people that he respected, that had some leverage, some power, some authority shared with or on him or what have you, in a normal social structure, would be saying, no, this involves the killing of babies. Find another way, which is what would happen, which is what has always spoken in wars, in all wars. When children start getting killed, people start saying, okay, no, we can't go that way. Because the collective, some kind, calls us back to reason. When you have the collective forces at a larger scale, at the scale of countries, all of a sudden say, well, we're not looking, we're hushing it all up, we're giving the absolving narratives on the news, so that you can continue doing this without really being seen or criticized by too many people. It's kind of like, being allowed by God to rob, or insulting somebody on the internet without anybody being able to reach out across the screen and do anything to you. So the collective is it is our base. In fact, modern intellectual ideologies and philosophies of human behavior, of intellectual movements, have wrongly stemmed from individualism because of some individualist intellectual movements of recent times, and have laid down a way of thinking that have later created other ways of thinking about certain things, all stemming from individualism. And the truth is that we should all stem from collectivism, not from communism, not from taking, charging people enormous taxes or taking the fruits of their labors away from them or anything but from the intellectual understanding of how we physiologically function. For an individual to be optimal and healthy, the collective has to be optimal and healthy. You can have a collective that's optimal and healthy with some individuals that have a hard time optimizing their life into becoming the best expression of health they can be. But you will never have a collective that's healthy with individuals that are unhealthy. So we're inverted right now. We have it the other way around. All our political sciences and people are now, have divided. In fact, what's very interesting is that the world is in a political field of division right now, of socialism or communism against, capitalism, liberal individualism, or what have you. And it's like there's this war going on, and the ones on the individual or the capitalist mind are completely convinced that it's the only way to make progress in the world, and everything will work out, everything will work better, and things will progress faster and the enemy to that, of course, are the ones that said, wait a second, you guys are not caring about the millions who are left in poverty. You're not caring about people being greedy and taking all for themselves. You're not caring about, how kids cannot access schools, you're not caring about human collective, values, stuff that we would all care about. Like in a village, any mother would care that any child is not eating somewhere in the village, is being mistreated by any of the parents, because that's the natural base that we have. First comes the collective intelligence, and then the individual intelligence kind of is the inventor. But it shouldn't be a mad scientist in the basement that nobody cares for, and then when he wins, all of a sudden he's ruling like a tyrant everybody in the household. There should be a copaceticness, an amalgamation of the collective individualist mind and the ways by which money is very useful, for example, and the parts of capitalism that indeed are good for fostering individual advancements of different kind. But the values of collectivism, all the things that different social humanist movements throughout history have brought up, have workers' rights, and all these things have to be also on the table alongside the great, stupendous ideas of the individualist, precocious mind. And right now, we're not doing that. We're actually stuck in the mud, in a sense, because if you think of the mind and this unstable relationship, yet designed to work together for the advancement of evolution, but the wholeness that is every life form, in that we are first a collective. It's almost like making the walking of the human body analogous, or a metaphor to it. And in order to walk, we need to walk with both legs as smoothly, as gracefully as we can, with both legs equally. And if you do that, we will live and we will go forward and we will do with life and everything that surrounds us all that we want to do and have to do and need to do. What this polarization, this division in the political field of the West primarily right now is doing to us is kind of like tying a ball and chain to one of the two legs, or or creating a fight where they're tied with a rope, and so they can't run, they can't walk quickly, and in fact they pull back, and then like what happened in Argentina is completely tragic. Is what you see is, the United States kind of is doing that now. For example, with this last president especially, it's like, because we are the ones that are right, we have to undo everything that the last ones did. And so if they named a building a certain thing, change, and so we're preoccupied with winning the cultural war, they call it. And that means that when thinking about a single human being that society is, we are a single species, a single human collective in the world, a single human society. These things, when thinking about the single human being, we're fighting over what to do. Should he eat now? No, he should eat at 10. And so when 9 o'clock comes, he doesn't eat. And then when 10 o'clock's come around, no, he was supposed to eat at 9, so he doesn't eat at 10 o'clock either. Or he eats both at 9 and at 10 o'clock. That's kind of what we're doing right now. That's, instead of just eating one time and going forward with the rest of life. We're not looking at the working of the country as a single mechanism. We're preoccupied with the system and winning the system that we used, because we have come to express these two sides of the brain that in the brain are designed to work a certain way, the individual mind and the collective mind, by making them into two groups populated by these different people. Those people become enemies of each other, and it's so ridiculous. We have taken, how can I say this, a model, like not a working model, but like a real rudimentary model of the human brain, and trying to make it work differently in the real world. And we turned it into a fight. And the brain, it can't do that, because if only the individual mind succeeded, it's not even something we can imagine. Because living forms life in the universe, every living conscious being, every creature, every plant form, every form of creation of life and evolution is always a collective first. Within that collective, and this is a paradigm that we need to understand when it comes to governing our countries, within that collective is the many unique individuals, which may all be different like snowflakes, but they're all snowflakes. They're all snowflakes of a big snowstorm, which is humanity. So we need to understand that paradigm. We need to understand that it's one thing, and that it starts, all sciences, all human sciences, start with understanding it for the purpose of understanding the human collective. And so if we understand how the individual psychology works in a human brain, we always understand it in the context of how it relates to every other living brain or every other human being of their immediate family and society or village or country or language. But always in reference to that and for that, so that is ultimately the healthiest. The collective is the healthiest. And then we can see how the human body works, but everything needs to always be contextualized in the health of the collective and understood in reference to the workings and the functioning of and the mechanisms of the collective, because that's how evolution designed it. Each one of us, though we all act individually and autonomously and uniquely, do so in order to fulfill aspects or functions or purposes or goals or directions of the collective. And so we need to we can only truly be ultimately most correct about in how we understand psychology or sociology or human nature and the human brain and everything that you want to understand about each one of us. We can only understand it in how it serves ultimately how it works through the dynamics that serve the integrity of the collective, how they work in terms of the dynamics that serve the integrity of the collective. And that's how you understand each one of us. And we're not doing that right now in the political field of running nations. Right now we're in a stupid confrontation that wants to kill half the brain and feels that at all costs the other half has to win. You know, that's kind of that's what's happening right now. So we need to stop fighting. We need to stop the polarization, stop the binary, comparative, confrontational thinking of intelligent ideas, and start seeing how they all speak of the single society or the single nation or the functioning of the institutions that serve the whole country. We need to drive all ideas back to the collective purpose. And this has nothing to do with saying I'm a socialist or I'm not a socialist. I don't believe in communism. I don't care about either one of these two. My point is precisely that we have to get rid of thinking binarily and go back to the design of nature, where the only binary reality is men and women. And, and everything we already see, and how everything is already designed. And, we should use our logical, individualist, precocious intelligence or ego, inspired intelligence to invent for the collective, which we have always done, because all the great inventions of communism that have come out of communism or socialism or ideas or intellectualities have also come from the highly precocious individualist mind, except that they felt that, well, whatever, I'm going to get into this again, why it all started. It all started when, basically, in my poor understanding of political history, it seems to me, and I'm guessing that I'm not too far off, that what happened was that when we started becoming more intelligent and started developing human sciences of psychology and sociology, and started coming up with moral schemes of ethics and behavior and what have you related to human sciences and what have you, we started talking about how government power has always been so unfair and so abusive, and how monarchies and then the industrial era brought these immense, obvious, irritating imbalances of abuse, where some people were super wealthy and fat and abusive, and then other people slept on the street and da da da. And so we started thinking, because we now had these ideas. Perhaps before, we just took it for granted. That's just how it is, The kings and the priests are the ones that rule over us, and this is just life, We have to wobble and grovel on the floor, and, you're lucky if you're selling something and maybe you have a business, and maybe it didn't go much further than that because we didn't have the sciences of psychology and sociology and more analytical human sciences. But then when those started coming around, we started thinking, hey, maybe we can have political systems that are fairer, that don't produce such a large imbalance, so many people that never get to live and have what others easily obtain and enjoy, or that we no longer have people be so unjust and abusive while others poor and sick. And so when these ideas started, and I call it, let's just say, Marx and Engels and before them, and all the people that started talking this way about, hey, maybe we can come up with something better than what the world than what we have demonstrated are capable of doing so far. Um, and they didn't realize perhaps that what was happening was that humanity, civilization as a whole, was attempting an evolutionary leap in our political intelligence. And I think people did talk about that during during some during a period of time, but not enough to embrace it for what, because we never had a notion of we, us all. We never had a very healthy, strong, and ever-present perspective of we, us all human. And so even if some people start understanding that this is something that is happening to human civilization and human intelligence and its evolution of civilization, it didn't stick. It didn't grow. It didn't become the driving understanding of what was happening. But instead, the people that were leading the collectivist or socialist movements were starting to describe it and understand it, and they weren't saying this either. They weren't saying we need to evolve this as a world. All countries, all people need to find ways of being more like this. Instead of talking that way, they started comparing and explaining, and they, labeling capitalism. I don't know. I think it's capitalism. Actually, the word capitalism started from the socialist movement, perhaps, as identifying. But in any case, when they started saying, like those people in Germany and England and Holland, who are so rich, and look at the poor little children being, forced labor and stuff, they started feeling threatened. They started feeling that they were coming after their money. They started feeling that something was threatening. And this is a reaction of human nature. This is not because they were bad people, because as Mao, that's my cat. Mao, Kistayafa. Yeah. I gave him some meat today. I gave him some meat with kibbles. And so it caused a reaction, because it came from human nature, from feeling, the little shack I got, and the cows I have outside, and I have somewhat of a security now, and look at how much, and I'm going to have so many more cows guaranteed because I figured out how to do things. And then all of a sudden something is saying, you're taking too much. We've got to find ways of you not growing so much and distributing things. And why don't you do it voluntarily? Why don't you share a little bit? And then it's not that they rejected that because they're evil people, which is what the source of religion taught us, that some people will be like the entity of evilness exists, but because human nature all of a sudden was stimulated to fear insecurity, feel them not having what is making them feel a little better about the hardship of life, making them feel like they're escaping, which is what we're always trying to do, basically. We're trying to escape and escape the suffering. Escape the suffering. I thought of Buddhists, and so it got in the way. Escape the suffering of life. Escape pain and so that's why Buddhists say that, because it is part of human nature. We're trying to escape that tiger that is hiding around the corner, waiting to saber-toothed tiger about to pounce on our village. And so when we built that wall, when we have those industries and that wealth, and we're safe from that tiger, or we're safe from famine, anything that will threaten bringing down that wall or taking that money away from us, that protects us from the tiger or from famine or from not suffering, protects us from suffering, we will react against, we will want to defend ourselves against. And so this is where the confrontation started on the real living plane of society. It started from an attempt for humanity and to make an evolutionary step forward, to try to make a better kind of political system that distributed power and distributed our capacities and our inventions and our benefits of civilization, and got rid of these horrible imbalances. But instead of us embracing it as humanity, wanting to do that as a whole, some people reacted because they felt threatened because of the way they were saying it, they were presenting it. And so started sort of a battle between what we now understand as capitalism against socialism, which is completely wrong, because these two are basically not in a battle inside each one of our brains. They're not fighting. The individual mind serves the collective mind, actually. But it's brighter. It's brighter, it's faster, it's more selfish too. But, but it invents things and it creates things. And, it's no coincidence that we're so creative and inventive, where money was allowed to reign loose, seeking its own profit and its own growth, because what's behind it is the individual logical analytical mind of the human brain. But it has always considered the collectivist, humanist issues and arguments that were made throughout recent times. And so we had America where, I'm about to be very ignorant, I think it was Roosevelt that created the New Deal. And so, this has never not been with us, and even in the most, but somehow we have never seen so far that they were never meant to be separate, these two parts of the brain, these two forces that govern evolution, or that evolution has itself evolved through. And now we've taken it more to a greater level of division than ever. And Argentina is probably the most extreme, horrible case of sort of like they tied the collective humanist sensitive mind in the basement and gagged it. And now the rich brat is just deciding to, turn on all the stereos in the house and do whatever he wants, and have all his friends over and paint the kitchen red, and it's just going nuts. It's insane. It's grotesque, and he's insulting everybody, and he's like, because he feels he has to win, and he has to convince everybody to hate the poor gagged up socialist in the basement. And so because he feels that it's imperative for humanity, because he believed these books, and he believed that what these people wrote is, so many people write this and believe this, and they don't see that it's actually a relationship that needs to be healthy between the collective mind and the individualist mind. They feel that capitalism is the way. They don't see capitalism as a production or a manifestation of the inventive. And of course, that's why money is on, and the dollar bill is on that side. That's why it's all about systems and industry and administration and force, and because it's all about the system, the tinkering, the inventing, the engineering, and not caring about nature. And so then there was somebody, but they kind of know that nature cannot be forgotten, but it's not their priority. And then the other one kind of like doesn't really have such an ambitious target, and they dispersed into things that are kind of unable to be changed, and they think that there's a right or an injustice being committed someplace, which actually we were able to resolve ourselves naturally. It didn't really need to be right in the law. It didn't need to be so. When the so-called quote-unquote left started becoming really stupid and stopped caring about the important things of the traditional left values, the quality of the workers, that the accessibility to health, and they say they did, but they did nothing about it, because ultimately what has been governing is the mentality of succeeding with money and the right, which is what we call the right, wrongly associated with traditionalism. We kind of painted a panorama of these two sectors. Cause I'm just gonna keep talking forever, aren't I? An hour and a half. Okay, I better stop. I think if you followed up until this point, I think you pretty much get the idea by now. So, all right. I hope it was beneficial to whoever listened.